It's almost like my first rodeo or something. What is up, SHL? So glad to be back here with SHL Tonight. Um, Obviously, alongside me, as you can see on the stream, I have Hiff. Hiff, how's it going tonight, buddy?
Yeah, not too bad. Just had some. I had dinner like 5 minutes ago. I forgot. I had a quesadilla. That's what I had.
You had dinner 5 minutes ago and you forgot what you had briefly.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressive like that. You know, the SHL has been dominating my mind with all the great storylines this week, so it's just hard to keep all that dinner knowledge in my head.
Yeah, the dinner lore is important, but not as important as some of the fun stuff going on in the SHL. Huge news in the SHL this week. And I got to say, our insight and analysis here on SHL Tonight, we were ahead of the curve. We had the scoop before everyone else did.
We tried to bully it out of them, but they lied to our face. They said they couldn't say anything. They could have said something.
They could have used the official league sanctioned podcast as the launching pad for the ultimate news that, there's going to be some fun things coming down the pipe. And the cool thing is that we're going to bring in some special guests to talk about these pieces of news. Not going to be tonight's episode, but tune in next week when we're going to have two members of the head office join us to talk about the news that came out in the State of the Union. But, before we do that, let's just quickly 10,000 foot recap of what the head office put out for the State of the Union. If do you want to kind of drive the boat on that?
Yeah, so off the cuff from what I can remember, some of the big things were the change to FHM 10. They believe it's likely at this point. They're testing to make sure that everything's going well. The changes will be worth it. Things they're looking at updating, mainly from what I understood, is that the scheduling fixes are going to be huge. No more like back-to-back-to-backs all season long. And I forget the other ones, but that was the main one I remember was the scheduling fixes. And then expansion announced 2 to potentially 4 new SHL teams, which would be very exciting and chaotic in the best possible way. And And the new IHF commissioner, Frith Oettinger.
Yeah, congratulations.
Congratulations to you. Got announced as the IHF commish, and Reno was belatedly announced the co-commish for the SMJHL. So congrats to Reno.
Well deserved as well on that front, Reno. Congratulations. Got some good people in the chat already. Not that anybody's not a good person, but appreciate you seeing you, Frenchie, on Twitch. Remember, guys, we're live on Twitch as well. And if you can, make sure you can toss us a follow, and that would really appreciate us in growing the Twitch channel as we try to do that. Frenchie's here. We got Josh. Once again, who is Josh Hiff? What is that? What is Josh's username?
I don't think we ever figured it out. I just call him Tyrion Lannister at this point.
Okay. Yeah.
He drinks and he knows things, I bet.
He does, indeed.
Oh, yeah. Frenchie did get officially hired. That is important to point out. I just assumed it had been done prior, but that was in the post. So congrats to Frenchie. He's the guy we make to do stuff that we don't want to for the podcast.
That's true. And I will also, just so you guys know, like a big spearhead behind this podcast even coming to fruition was a lot of the collaboration and the motivation that I've received from Frenchie. So we wouldn't be where we're at today already without Frenchie's support. So shout out Frenchie. All my homies say we love Frenchie. Rich is also here. Good to hear from you, Rich.
He hasn't insulted me yet, so I'm not sure if it's the real Rich at this point.
It's Slicer. Yes. Okay. Slicer.
Okay.
Hey, Slicer.
We like Slicer.
I knew that. We established it at some point in the past, and I'm like,
they went out with the dinner, Laura. I don't remember.
Yeah, fair enough. In one ear and out the other one. So today's episode is going to be a fun one. We're just going to, like I said, we're going to nip that, big piece of news right in the bud. We're not going to have a lot of time to talk about it tonight because we're going to have two wonderful guests joining us to talk about their SHL experience, not in the last year, but the last 2 years. And we're going to have, Ramen from the Quebec City Citadels join us to talk about his back-to-back 4-star cup, which is very exciting. And then on the SHL front, we're going to have Bad Wolf join us as well to talk about the San Francisco Pride and, some of the experiences she's had with driving that boat there. So really excited about today's show. All the cool cats are on YouTube, Frenchie says. Yeah, I mean, that is where we do have the bigger presence. What the fuck? I thought this was supposed to start an hour ago. We bumped it back an hour to accommodate them. Yeah, we want you guys out there supporting your local simmers. So, Fanto, Bad Wolf, woo! Yeah.
I think you were just here for me, Fanto. Betrayal. Ultimate betrayal.
Betrayal. My Halo voice. All right. So, what time are we at here? Okay. Excellent. Well, what say you, Hiff, to us bringing Ramen in and chatting a little?
Absolutely. Yeah, got to bring in the best Dylan in the league.
All right, excellent. Let's bring Dylan in. Hey, Ramen, how are you?
Oh, your mic is messed up again.
Just keep talking. I think the second. There we go.
There we go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You're there. You got there eventually.
I opened settings, changed nothing. Now it works.
You threatened it. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, how are we doing?
Excellent. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight.
I'm happy to talk to you guys. I'll talk to anybody.
Yeah. Anytime you get to talk about your team that's very successful, it's a fun conversation to have, right?
It's better than being dragged onto a podcast after having, back-to-back losing seasons. We try not to have many of those, but it's fun nonetheless.
Awesome. Well, I've got a few questions for you, but when we have an interview here, I try to make it more conversational, not like here's a question, here's an answer. We're not going to do the true Q&A stuff. Like Hiff and I will jump in and throw other things at you. But really, I wanted to just kind of pick your brain right off the bat. And obviously, building a team in the SMJHL is different than building a team at the SHL level. Your contention window is much smaller, and what you're supposed to be doing in the J, and I'm not going to speak for every JGM, but what you're supposed to be doing is creating an environment that is welcoming of all and really engaging everybody to give them a good first experience when they come into the league. And that's sometimes a difficult thing to balance with, trying to create a roster that can be competitive in the J as well. So I want to ask you your perspective and your insight into how your strategy kind of works when you're building a team at the J level.
You really nailed it. It's so hard to try and balance competitiveness with development. At the same time, you really can't have one without the other in the J. And our philosophy has always been to get people in, create an atmosphere where they're excited, where they want to learn, where they want to grow, where they want to do stuff. Any opportunity that you can give, especially a first gen user, to get engaged with the league and see the results of their effort is something where you're going to generate a user who will hopefully be here for a long time. Personally, I love first gens. I would always rather draft a first gen user in the J, especially early on, than draft a recreate. That's not to say recreates aren't great. We've got a lot of great ones. We've had a lot of great alumni, but there's nothing like the energy that a first gen user brings. And it's always excited to see them show up. It's always excited to see them get drafted early. And they've been historically some of our best performing players. But
So,
you wanted to hear, jump in. Yeah.
Go ahead, Hiv.
Yeah, well, I was going to point out that, you do have the back-to-back cups as the Quebec City GM, but you also play on the other team we're going to talk about, the back-to-back champions in SFP. So you're kind of on the front lines of just continuous winning. How does it feel to be just the best at everything you do?
It's great. It doesn't happen often, and I've been on the reverse. I've been through the whole rebuild that we did in Edmonton, and I was just loss after loss. But you put in the work and you earn it, and then you come to a team like San Francisco that's reaching their peak, and you do nothing to earn the wins. That's always fun too.
So, are you actively taking yourself out of the goal of the year conversations by saying you do nothing?
Justin Time is an immortal godlike being who outperforms all of my expectations, and every time I say he's done, he proves me wrong. So I'm just going to go in with no expectations and see where this ride takes me.
Fair enough. So I just want to say
that everything I could want there.
You're being incredibly selfish with all the success, and I would really appreciate it if you could spread it out throughout the rest of the league. We're all about trying to make everyone feel welcome, and part of that is giving everybody, a good feeling about winning. So we're going to need you to kind of wrap it up here.
As a player, not my job. As a GM, it's my job to make my team have a blast and feel engaged and driven and 100%. Encouraged. The other teams, they got to do their work too. But
no, it's a skill issue. Your answer is skill issue.
Yeah, it's skill
That's issue. Exactly what he's saying.
And you can totally ignore everything I just said when I'm losing. Then the scales are totally different. No, it's a lot of fun to be part of winning teams, but it's also a lot of fun to be part of teams that build towards success. And I wouldn't discount the time that I've spent on rebuilding teams for anything, because that's some of the greatest experiences that I've had in the SHL. And the winning is fun, but chasing cups and winning late in your career is not as fun as seeing the team that you've put all of the effort into
100%
finally climb to the top of the mountain. I mean, the first cup in Edmonton was special because I remember everything we did to get there. And then Ace, your Winnipeg team that was just a juggernaut in the league for ages, to see them win the cup and finally, hit the peak on all of that effort.
Thank God,
had to be amazing.
We had to have one at least.
I was about to call Rashford the new Josh Allen, but
that team got PDO'd in the playoffs into oblivion. But no, but you brought up a lot of points about how you build a culture of success in the J. And I'd be remiss if I went and then talked about all the fun, silly stuff without talking about what makes our team unique in my eyes. And especially, the core philosophy of GMing that I saw with Evok and Flex when I first got here, what I wanted to build on when I took the reins, what I've worked on with Lore, what I've worked on with Gwen. Everything that we've done to make this team what it is really just built around kind of what we call our 3 pillars of success in QCC. And that is coaching, scouting, and mentorship. And there's a reason why my front office is built around those 3 distinct roles in Discord, and why everyone that gets brought into the front office is part of one of those 3 roles, sometimes more than one. But the idea that we have is that you can't have success without building a good roster. And that comes down to scouting, finding the people who fit into your team, the people who mesh well, the culture fits. You can't have success without developing that roster, and that comes down to mentorship. The rookie mentors do an amazing job. Easily the reason why I stuck around in the league after joining was because of the effort that they put in. Some better than others have. But But the work that they did was inspiring, and I wanted to bring that to QCC specifically, and that's why we built the mentor role. And we have people within our war room who are there specifically to be on call for new users or returning users. Anyone who's got a question can go to them and ask for advice on how does the game work? How do I do my tasks? Am I on track with stuff? How do I make money? And I credit that a lot to the development we've done. We've taken players in the 4th, 5th, 6th round and turned them into 1st and 2nd round SHL picks, and that means more as a JGM than any cup win ever will.
Love that. So you mentioned
we want to win cups.
Yeah, I mean, winning's cool. I mean, you're not GMing to let everybody else win. You want to do the best for your team, 100%. I did that when I was a JGM as well. I mean, I have a question for you regarding, your front office strategy. And obviously, Quebec City has a culture that's been pretty well defined, is pretty well regarded around the SHL community at the J level for a long time. But your management style, I mean, obviously, you inherited a great room and a great situation from Evoc and Flex, but how does your style maybe differ from what may have been there before you took over the role?
I think adding the mentor role to our front office was the accomplishment I'm most proud of, because that was the big distinct change that I made to our structure. Something we've wanted to focus on recently is really prioritizing the first gen users. I think we grabbed Lawlerin with the 1 overall pick a couple seasons back, and he's been outstanding, just absolutely beaten up my every expectation. We've really dug, and the scouting room that we have is phenomenal. And I have to credit a lot of that to Gwen. Bringing Gwen in brought an outside perspective to this team that I don't think we had. We've always been accused of being a bit of an insular team. I think a lot of locker rooms get that way, especially when you start to recycle people who've been through the system once or twice. And we wanted to get that outside experience as well and see what do we look like from the outside, where can we improve, what are our gaps? And getting that perspective that Gwen brought to the team has totally reshaped the way that we do scouting. It's brought in some new tactical changes. What she's doing in Edmonton right now is fantastic, and she's definitely brought some.
Don't look at the sim today. Yeah.
Yeah, ignore the sim today. But yeah, I would say what I really like to focus on is the culture bringing up first gen users. I think we've done a good job of that in the past, but it was my number one focus coming in, and I think the monster class that we got in 73 with the 74 SHL class, carried a team to 3 regular season titles and then 1 cup, because thank God we finally won a cup with that team. And then to do it again with this group has been just outstanding.
So I've already heard you name a few people specifically, but I want to give you an opportunity to maybe shout out a few players or users that you thought really kind of went above and beyond. And obviously, I've heard Gwen, I've heard Lawlerin, a few other people, but is there anybody else that really kind of sticks out to you as being a big contributing factor behind the Citadel's recent success?
You have to go through the whole war room list. We've got like 15 people in there, which I think.
All right, I'm not going to give you that kind of platform to do
people.
That.
Yeah. No, I would say that Gwen has taken over as our head scout since the moment she got here, and was the key driving force in our last couple of drafts. Evoc and Flex obviously built the culture that we've built all of our foundation from. Portal came in clutch with scouting this past season and was instantly rewarded with the GM spot in Newfoundland. So now we have to beat him. But there are too many people in my front office for me to name here without wasting all of your time going through it one by one, all the successes. And I think that overall is what makes QCC's War Room special. I will always be a proponent of having more people in the front office than having not enough, because the sheer versatility that we have when someone is out to be able to just throw bodies at a problem until we find a solution has carried us through some really tough times.
Excellent. Hif, I think you had a question as well.
Yeah, this is just more of a personal question. Do you feel you owe the league an apology for being a Vegas fan?
I owe nobody an apology. I jumped on the bandwagon the moment they announced the team. I committed to a decade of suck, and it just didn't happen.
So you're an unrepentant Vegas fan, is what I'm hearing.
Absolutely.
No apology.
No apologies
How do
whatsoever.
you say that team name, Hiff?
Vegas?
Vegas?
I'm Canadian. Fuck off.
He also can't pronounce Calgary, so why are we listening to him?
I don't know. Why is this guy my co-host? I don't even know how this
Who
works.
knows?
Okay. Yeah, number one, Vegas sucks. Well, that's a story for another time. I have a question for you. Wanted to know what kind of unique steps that you guys took. And maybe there isn't any. Maybe nothing comes to mind, and that's okay. But with you having to do this at the J level, if you have a point, or you're dying over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a throat plague the past week.
Fair enough. So I just wasn't sure if there's been like anything specific, any tough decisions you've had to make in order to make sure that your team can roll that level of, competitiveness from one season to the next.
I think you're going to see, and I've warned the team about this, you're going to see a pretty steep fall off a cliff next season from us as we have a ton of age outs. And
do you hear that, Jay fans? Do you hear that? Citadels are going away.
Put it on the calendar. He said this last time when this team finished first in the league still.
So QCC rebuild.
Yeah. It's a bait. It's a lie.
We took a look at the roster and we said, okay, we need to get a big draft class, and we got it. And then we hit all the magic just right. We won the Lorifer. We were in a position to chase for a cup, and we got it. Kind of by the skin of our teeth sometimes, but we got it. And that felt great. Then we looked at our roster again and we said, we need to replace 2 people. And what does it make sense for us to draft? And looking at the roster, the easiest answer was nobody. We saw that there was an opportunity with the roster in Vancouver trying to rebuild. We saw a pair of wingers that we liked that already had chemistry together that would fit perfectly on our second line. I hit up Shawnee and we said, hey, let's do something kind of stupid. And I gave him all the picks that I had in that class, didn't draft a single rookie, and loaded up the roster for a cup run. And that's tough to do in the J because you're trying to balance development with competitiveness. And obviously, if you don't draft any rookies, then you're not going to have a ton of development the following season. But we also owe it to our players that are currently on the roster to have them keep fighting for cups while they're here. So we said, let's do what's best for QCC and what's best for Vancouver, line up our team's windows appropriately, and then just gun it for a cup. And we know that we're going to struggle. We know that we're going to have a bunch of age outs, and we're not going to be able to replace them fast enough. But the beauty of the J is that while your windows are short, your rebuilds are short too. So we might struggle for a season, but that just gives us an opportunity to load up on picks, get a bunch of new people in, get them excited, and do the whole thing again.
So I'm gonna bring a little bit of a contrarian take here from the audience, just to get your take on it, Ramen. And
yeah,
we're let's see, there's too much glazing going on. Apparently, we're not being critical enough. So Ocho11 chimes in. The best player to draft was nobody. Isn't the point of the J to draft players and get them into the league, though?
I think that the track record that we have of drafting players and getting them into the league stands for itself. And I think that having an off season and giving other teams the opportunity to do the same thing and load up and get their excited batches of rookies is just as good for the league as drafting one person all alone and having them kind of awkwardly in the middle of wings. So as long as the players on my team are active, and we have one of the most active rosters in the league every single season, then I think we're doing our job. And if my team's full of actives, that's an opportunity for somebody else to go and fill up their team with actives. So you look around the team, I challenge you to find a roster that is more consistently full of active users than could.
Fair enough. I'm going to give you a little exercise here, and this may be a little strange, but I apologize in advance. So I'm going to ask you, not that kind of exercise. I'm going to ask you to pick 3 other teams in the J that you think are really doing a good job in the last 2 seasons and are building something special there. Say something nice about your competition.
I think if you want to look at competitive teams right now, I think Newfoundland and San Diego have put together some really strong rosters, and on paper I would expect them to be the top seeds out of each conference. They're doing a great job. I think Ottawa has consistently built a locker room that everyone loves to be a part of. And they've done that since day one of the expansion draft. I guess that's 3, but St. Louis has really done a job of turning the ship around. They kind of perpetually struggled, got some fresh blood in, and have done an amazing job of building a locker room that every time I hear about it, it's just constantly active. But I really struggle to find teams in the J that I don't think build fun locker rooms. So those are 3 that are on my mind right now, or 4. I can't count. No, it's not my strong suit. I'm only an engineer. But
yeah, you got 4. That's good. That helps.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we want. I mean, appreciate you being able to say some kind things about your
I
counterparts.
don't think there's a bad locker room in the J. I think everybody has their windows, but I really don't think that there's any team that can't find success.
All right. We're going to throw it to the audience here for a quick moment. Any last minute questions for Raman that you guys have before we move on?
And then see the chat stream, so you're going to have to prompt him.
Yeah, no worries. I'll play
it's
goalie.
It's just Osho and David, Darth David shit-talking each other right now.
Yeah, not much going on that front.
Yeah.
So,
Lime did mention that NL was mentioned.
I'm not going to ask that question. Yes, NL mentioned. That is indeed Lime. It was. So Raman got you guys taken care of on that front. We'll give everybody in the chat a couple moments here, and if not, we will send you on your way. But
so, which cup did you get the Quebec blanket after? Was this like you won a cup? You got the blanket?
I got it before even the '69 Cup. I think I got it when I was still in the J. So one of my many Cup finals failures.
Are you gonna get a Citadel's tattoo?
I haven't been a tattoo guy. That would be one I'd consider. That'd be a good one.
That's true.
Yeah.
We do have a question.
Okay.
From Frenchie. What is, in your opinion, one of the most pressing issues in the J currently?
There's the goalie backlog. That's a huge one. I know we have a ton of goalies in the league right now. I know we're basically full. I think there might be 1 or 2 spots left. So that's always a challenge, but I don't know if it's a J issue or an SHL issue or what it is. There's a gap where players earn well enough to be successful in the J, but not well enough to really have a place in the SHL. And I think that deserves a close look and a potential solution. I think maybe expansion in the SHL will provide a bit of a stopgap there. But for players who earn to that like 1,100-ish peak, which is way between the J cap and still way under what a lot of competitive rosters put on the ice, it's hard to see what the league wants out of those users, or if the league wants that user, if I'm being cynical. And I think we owe it to every player that we have in the league to find a spot for them where they can feel like they're competitive and part of a roster.
I think if we had 2 or 4 expansion teams, you're adding 20, 40.
I'm excited. If we hit that 4-team expansion, it's going to be total chaos. And I mean that in a good way. It'll be fun.
I can't wait. We have one last question for you here, Raman, from Frenchie again. How strongly does winning correlate to user development, in your opinion?
I think for recreates, it's a lot less important than first gens. In my experience, first gens have been really, really excited to see on ice success. And you do have to kind of coach them into figuring out what the roadmap to success looks like in the SHL. Recreates know the drill. They know what to expect. I know if I'm on a rebuilding roster, it's going to take 8 seasons before we enter our cup window, whatever that's going to be in the SHL. The J needs to do a good job of preparing users for what that SHL experience looks like. And I think winning it's not the best way to make someone just love and care about the community, but it is a way to consistently do it. And a lot of users need that first spark to get them invested in what the rest of the league has to offer.
100% agree. Have any closing thoughts, comments, questions for Raman?
Are you willing to make a bet if your team is good next season and you've lied to us? What will you get a QCC tattoo?
A QCC tattoo if we're good? No,
yeah.
I'm not going to do that for you.
Coward.
You can't commit to it? So you lied to the entire J again. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Raman the unrepentant.
All right, Ramen. Thanks so much for joining us. It was a blast
Thanks
having
for
you on.
having me.
Congratulations again to the Citadels on your back-to-back cups. Shout out to your team. Yeah, maybe we'll talk to you again next off season if you guys go for the big three-peat. I know you're not counting on it, but if you get the three-peat, the tattoo has to happen.
100%.
All
All right. Awesome. All right. We also have our other guest in the wings waiting. But before we do that, we've got to make sure that we provide our wonderful friends over at the SHL graphics department opportunity to share a message for this week. So give me a quick moment. I'm going to share my screen.
What did Raj do now? We would never, Rashford. You're right.
There we go. We have a nice little bonus week for the graphics department. SHL Pride Weeks. So as long as you label your threads with Pride ×2, you guys are going to get a ×2 payout, and you're going to get an extra 150K per submission. So shout out to our friends over at the SHL graphics team. Raj put this together. Happy to share this with the masses. So make sure you guys, if you're looking to make some bank, it's a good opportunity to go out and make some graphics and get some extra SHL cash.
I'm excited to see the graphics will look like too. A lot of the Pride coloring is going to be really exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be so cool. I mean, you already see a lot of those, like the charity cards. They just are just stellar, just amazing stuff. All right. Well, what do you say, Hiff, if we send it over to our next guest?
Absolutely. I wonder who we're bringing in next.
Oh, wow. Wonderful Bad Wolf from the San Francisco Pride joins us now. Bad Wolf, how are you?
Good. Doing good.
Awesome. Awesome. Are the Pride going to three-peat?
That's the hope.
Casually
Are you getting a
optimistic,
Pride
cautiously
tattoo if they
optimistic?
three-peat?
You know what? I don't know.
Maybe a Stitch wearing a Pride jersey?
I would get him tattooed.
No, you have to get him tattooed on you wearing the Pride jersey.
You know what? I would.
All right,
Yeah.
all right.
Like
Yeah.
a giant thigh piece, too.
Yeah,
A thigh
absolutely.
piece, too. Wow, that's a commitment.
It would be like,
Awesome. Well, I mean, the season's already underway. Obviously, it's not even the off season anymore, but we're using this opportunity to kind of highlight, as we mentioned earlier, our winners for the previous season. This is going to be a reoccurring segment. Each time a team wins, we're going to try to get a representative from their team on the podcast, talk about their successes and everything like that. So you probably already heard all of my questions for Ramen, and obviously some of that's going to be a little different because the JA versus the SHL dynamic, but not sure if you have any specific things that you would like to talk about in regards to your strategy when building a team. And I know that it's a little bit of it. I mean, this is my take. Maybe you can tell me I'm wrong
Yeah.
and to shut up. It's a little different for you as far as I'm concerned, because you inherited a pretty decent team from Caleb. But maybe some tweaks needed to be done and to keep that window rolling here. But how is that strategy? How did you execute that strategy when you were managing the San Francisco Pride?
yeah. So I think a big thing is, even though the GMs have changed, our management has stayed the same. So Toast started off this drafting back in 68 and drafted hardcore from 68 to 71. That turned over into Caleb building this team, which then translated into me taking the team. But Caleb and Toast are still such big aspects of my management channel. So yes, it was handed down, but I still have those people. But yeah, it's just off-season acquirings, trying to trade, get better picks, get better players, and keep your team competitive while also keeping your core, because our top 6 is very active and I don't want to trade that away for anything.
Yeah, it's a fine line to walk, right? I mean, at what
Yeah.
point is a young active player that is a great member of your locker room, but still is probably like 4 seasons away from being a top tier in sim player, more valuable than a fully retained 2000 TPE player? And that's always kind of like that discussion you have to have as an SHL GM.
Yeah, it can be very difficult because you do want to be competitive, you do want to get those cups, but you do find those people that you're like, I can't trade you. You're such a good user.
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear that. Hif, do you have any questions for Bad Wolf right off the
Yes.
hop?
So when you came in, my understanding there was a bit of a fiasco with the budgeting because Caleb got a little tied up with the life, and you lost. You did
Yeah.
manage to lose like a really big free agent. Reno did leave to LA, which left a pretty big hole in your roster. Just kind of like, how did you go through that process of like getting the budget together and filling that massive hole Reno had left, because he was a huge part of that roster as well.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't think I was going to fill that hole. Um, I think part of it's luck almost. And every time free agency rolls around, I had those years when we weren't the best of the best, and free agencies were like, no, no, already signed. Um, but now, especially head office implemented a rule where we have a freeze where free agents can't agree for a certain amount of time. That definitely helped. So it made it easier to get those free agents and fill those holes, because some people do leave unexpectedly. And yeah, that budget was a mess that season. I was not able to make GM tasks because I wasn't the GM at the time. It was just the lonely co.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Any kind of moments, not so obviously not this year. I mean, you guys obviously had a pretty good idea that you were a pretty stacked team and you had a good chance, but probably before you won that cup before, was there any kind of moments that stood out to you specifically that maybe made you look at yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, this is real. Like this could actually happen this year. We should get excited in this locker room.
Yeah, I think the first time we saw it was back in '74. Um, Lost actually to Winnipeg in the semis. And I think that was the first
Good.
season that we were like, okay, our youngest players were hitting 1,000, and we were like, okay, these are active players. They're only at 1,000. If this is what we can do with our youngest at 1,000, just imagine where we'll be in a handful of seasons. And I think being able to see that is really what keeps those players interested and motivated. Like, yeah, we lost, but realize that wasn't our time to win.
Well, I think I feel like the Pride really kind of struck it rich a little bit with the ebbs and flows of the Simulation Hockey League, especially in the Western Conference. There were a lot of teams heavily on the downswing when the Pride were ready to take that big step forward. And, gone are the days where there are 4 or 5 teams that are the top dogs just duking it out, and the final 4, or even sometimes the first round, you'd have some of the top teams with the current divisional structure go at it. And I would say, and I'm not trying to diminish your accomplishment at all, but I think the path to the final is exponentially easier today than maybe it was 10 seasons ago. And that may be me being biased. Like, call me out in the chat if I am, but
Little
I feel like,
nostalgia, yeah.
I feel like
Forgetting how good those LA teams still were towards the beginning of those cup runs.
I will say, everyone in our locker room, we say LA is our rival. And that's because we face them every single season.
Battle of
And
California.
it's a hard battle season after season. But it's also kind of fun to have those rivals. It's just a fun rival.
Fancy 13 says, I personally think you killed free agency.
Thank you, Fancy. I would hope so, since I picked you up in free agency.
That Nostradamus was a miss, but everyone else I think was pretty good.
Yeah.
Ace bias? No.
100%.
I'm going to ask you the same thing that I asked Ramen. Is there anybody in particular that you would like to shine a light on, just amplify them for just stepping up above and beyond to help the Pride accomplish what they've accomplished so far? And I know you've already mentioned Toast.
Yeah.
You already mentioned Caleb. Anybody else that kind of sticks out to you?
Honestly, it's probably no surprise that it's Ramen. He is the third, absolute staple that I need to pull this team together. I do love everyone else in my war room dearly. They're there for good vibes, but Caleb, Toast, and Ramen are the ones that are there every day grinding with me, figuring out lines, helping me do budget. Because if any of you guys have had me in a war room, I talk a lot. I don't necessarily need answers, but I'm kind of just like talking to a wall 24/7. I'm like, okay, so if I do this and I do this and I do this, that means we would have 4 mil left. Does that make sense? Yeah, that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
but at least they're there to double check my math because math is hard.
Yeah, I don't math. No, but I need the sheets to math for me.
I need the co-GM to math for you. That's what the co-GM's for.
Where's Rashford? Get him back here. Hip, any questions for Bad Wolf?
Yeah, I think a big part of what you did inherit some excellent veterans, like Ace was mentioning, and I think like the oldest among them, the chief and foremost, probably being Lure, colloquially known as the Victor Netflix.
Mhm.
How good does it feel to be able to have someone who's Lure's in his first player, and you're able to bring them in and have them have such a great successful time?
I love it, you know. I mean, clearly I wasn't there for drafting him. It was a bit before my time, because I got traded there later. But it's so nice to see SHL teams. You're really there for the long haul. Like Lore's been around since season 68. That's a hot minute. So to
Is
find
it?
out that
It's about 3 years, yeah, 2.5.
I'm not doing that math, Darth.
But
No.
yeah, so like what I know you used to be the SMJHL commissioner. What made you want to enter the GM realm this time?
Honestly, I don't know. I had done head office and commissioning for such a long time that when I came back from my break, I was like, you know, I've never seen the other side of it. And I went and did that, and I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. I started out in Jays, so I was like, this is pretty cool. I like the player management. And then when I was able to move up into the San Fran Co position, I was like, yo, this is wild. They're two completely different things. And that's not saying one's harder than the other. They are just two different beasts
Yeah, very,
altogether.
very different. Yeah, and I mean, I'll say from my perspective, obviously, Bad Wolf, you've done it too. I mean, I've GM'd both J and SHL now.
Mhm.
My biggest gripe about the J is that your successes are amplified exponentially, but your failures are also magnified
Yeah.
exponentially because you have such a thin margin of error as a general manager in the J. Because just the same thing we were talking to Raman about, that timeline that you have is just so much more condensed,
It's
and
so quick.
it is wild. So one thing that I personally love about SHL GMing is that you have a lot of runway for
Mhm.
long-term strategic planning, and it really allows you to get really kind of creative, and as long as you can amass the appropriate young talent and draft capital, you can
Mhm.
build whatever you really want, and you can execute to it in a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year plan, and it's so much fun. And I'm assuming you've done kind of the same thing. I mean, candidly, I'm curious what your thought is. When does this window of contention end for the Pride, and when does that next kind of rebuild
When are we
slash
free? Tell us when we're free.
Soon enough that I don't have to worry about Edmonton. But
So not this season. You're done.
it's either this season or next. I haven't
Hmm.
figured out quite when. A lot of it determines on Justin's time regression. Granted, goalie TP is a slight lie, but
It matters.
so
HL's
it
watching?
it is kind of playing it by ear, but I'm also ready to full bomb this team because in order to get that draft capital, I need to sell off.
You heard it here, folks, right here on SHL Tonight. Bad Wolf is
Mhm.
ready to bomb the Pride.
The Pride are open for business. Trade
They're
for them
open.
right now. No
We
cups this
actually
season.
drafted. No, I didn't say this season. We can cup for this season. I'll do a 3P, and then we might explode. But I
Excellent.
actually drafted last season, so I think I have to afford prospects now.
Yeah,
That
well, the trick
it's
is
not
you
in
got
my
to
budget.
sell before the expansion draft. That way, you only expose inactive bodies.
Yeah, who are they
and
taking from you?
Yeah, whatever. Take
They'll
take
take
Fun
my
Beth's spot. I'm
1,100.
fact,
sure she'll be
I
available.
have a singular inactive on my team, and that's our MVP backup goalie,
Luke from.
Luke Fromm.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Hmm.
His name's not Jake. I learned that.
State Farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Luke's the best goalie in the league.
So I guess like if you're going to have a rebuild coming, you said one's imminent. What are things that you would be looking for in prospects that you're trying to bring in the Pride? Like, what is a quintessential SFP Pride prospect look like?
Active users that are really engaged in the league. Because like you said, Lore was a new user, and Lore was such a essential piece to our team. I want someone, because like, no offense to the people that have been around forever, I know I am so guilty of it. I have so many locker rooms, I have so many servers, and that does take away from time that I'm spending in my team's locker room. I want people that only have 3-4 locker rooms and servers, because looks like you're spending all day in mine.
Yeah, I see that point, but I also I feel like even though I've been around for a while, eventually the teams I'm not focused on, I kind of just ghost those locker rooms.
They just get into one of those like bundle servers, whatever they're called.
I'm not
So
gonna see
like
those
they're
ever
all
again.
in folders, but certain people, cough cough Shawnee, keep tagging me in all of them.
Yeah, that's why we block Shawnee.
That sounds like
this
a personal
podcast
problem.
official position is
really
block
is.
Shawnee.
Yeah, hold on. We do have to put out an official statement about that. We suggest blocking Shawnee. Scroll across the bottom.
But so basically, the quintessential SFP prospect has no friends, so they have to hang out with you. Is the
No, that's not true. But honestly, just someone who has that drive, wants to be super active in the locker room, super active in the team. People who do want to contribute to the war room, because like I said, when we sell off, that my war room's gonna get a lot smaller. So.
That is always, I mean, I can tell you firsthand. I mean, I know you've seen it as well with your time here, Bad Wolf, and Hif can also attest to this. But, you know, one of the most difficult things about transitioning from that top tier of a contending team to, you know, kind of staring reality in the face. You know, father time does eventually come for you. You can only, you know, extend that contention window so long. Yeah. And then, you know, seeing some of these people that have been your trusted advocates and your advisors and your best friends, you know, it hit me the hardest when I moved on from Jess and Rashford and when they went over to LA. And those people that I had in my locker room, in my war room, that I would always be able to bounce things off of, suddenly one of them's a co-GM for another team and the other one's in the war room for that other team too. And, you know, I can't, like, selfishly, competitively, I can't have them, you know, in my war room anymore because there's a conflict of interest. And I'm like, I find myself on an island there, and it's difficult as a GM when you go through that. I mean, do you have any kind of plans to maybe have some of the alumni still more involved and kind of help you smooth those, you know, more difficult times that are coming?
Yeah, we definitely keep alumni in the main locker room, and they do come around all the time. Our main core with Cluster Alaska, Spidey Lore, I do think they'll keep talking for a while, even if they're not directly in the war room. And I don't know what I'm going to do with Toast, though. I think I just need to, like, be like, okay, who has one overall? I need him back.
Yeah, that is a good strategy. It's worked out.
It's that, or you got to take him out back in Old Yeller Room. He's had a good run.
He left for Mexico this week and deleted Discord.
Yeah, you know, this also happened to a prospect I took. His name's Jojo Larkin. He went on vacation, never returned. Yeah, nice knowing Toast.
Well, he sent me a gift on Pokemon Go, so he's at least live.
That's good. Okay.
That's good. Yeah. That's all I really had for you, Bad Wolf. Any concluding thoughts or anything else you want to touch on for the Pride before we wrap up today?
Someone please get me a Pride sig. I need that. Times 2 graphic media.
The community. She's
plus
asking
150 bonus. Yeah.
Yeah, 150K bonus on that too. Yeah, don't go spend that all in one place. So, all right, Bad Wolf, thank you so much for joining us. It was great having you on and talking San Francisco Pride. Congratulations to you and your team on your back-to-back Challenge Cup championships. And who knows, if you guys hit it big and get the 3-peat, we'll have you next year.
That's the hope.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, I got to be quicker on these clicks here. I needed my producer here to help us out. Frenchie, get in here.
Isn't that Troy's job? What's Troy doing?
I don't know. Good question. So yeah, I mean, it's been a pretty good show so far. We still have 10 minutes left of time. Any other thoughts for topics?
I mean, we could do a bunch of things, but we did mention the SO2 announcement. Just like, what are your thoughts on 4 teams possibly entering the league? Never happened in league history. Would be the first time. Like, how much you, as a GM to start, how much do you think it would impact your team having to potentially give away like 4 to 8 players or something?
I think I might have a stroke. And I think that they're going to have to probably get really creative with the expansion rules in order to facilitate a 4-team expansion. You know, granted, there is now many more teams that are, you know, available in the pool. So I think that they would probably have to institute a rule that, you know, there is a maximum number of players that can be selected from one team in order to mitigate that kind of obstacle.
Yeah, well, like we could do the math here real quick. What's 9 plus 6 is
I already said I don't do
15
math.
plus
I already made
17
that
17 times 4. We'll get a calculator out. We can do the quick math. Here we go. Give me 1 second here. And we're divide that by 20. So each team is going to lose about 3.4. So probably 4 or 5 players as a cap.
So we're all going to lose pi players.
Exactly. Yeah. 3.14159 265 35854. Exactly.
He's flexing on me. I thought I was good at the number I got to. Holy smokes. All right. So you gotta kind of plan for that. I mean, you know, this is going to be happening for season 83.
Are you thinking that teams are going to, like, if they know they're not going to be in cup contention, that maybe like end of season there's a roster freeze to stop you from like protecting your roster? They might like trade midseason a trade deadline.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
I'm not going to win,
or
so just, I don't want to lose assets for free, so I'm going to send it.
Yeah, or to even go and load up on, you know, what, like 700 TPE inactive players that are just, you know, not really going to be long-term fits anywhere. You know, what's to stop a team from doing that? So I don't know. It'll be really a dynamic thing to kind of watch. And I don't envy, you know, the head office from, you know, the situation that they're in right this second to try to
envy them
figure out.
Almost ever. It seems like a very tough, terrible job to do. I respect them for it, but I'd never.
Slicer says it's sad times for Chicago. That's right in the middle of the window. Yeah, I mean, the window starting in Winnipeg as well here as soon as we can in the next couple of seasons too. I mean, Edmonton, Chicago, Winnipeg, the next wave is coming in the league.
Montreal,
Montreal, yeah. Although Montreal really moved up their window with some of their trades this previous.
Maybe CK had insider info. We should get him on the. He's connected to who was the Betty White that did the insider trading? Not Betty White. The cooking lady. Who's the cooking lady? Martha Stewart. He's connected with Martha Stewart, I think.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's Snoop Dogg's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Martha Stewart. Fancy has a good question here, Hiff. Wanted to bounce this off you guys. If this season we have a similarly sized draft class, the J will be overflowing. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but will we see J expansion again? Hey, SHL Tonight is where we get ahead of ourselves. I was approximately a week and a half ahead of myself last time we were on here.
I'm going to go with a no for this one, though. I think what might happen is we might see them cap goalie creations, because goalies are the big ones that are having trouble finding a spot. But you're going to have people aging out. You're going to have inactives. At most, they might have like a rule to like just nix some inactives, so like you can release them for free or something. Yeah, I don't think I think expansion is something that, while it's fun and exciting for the league, it's something they avoid doing unless it's necessary, because they don't want to have to retract. Because retracting hurts the league and like people's souls so much more than expansion brings you joy. So I don't think next season expansion is something that would be in the cards for the J.
Kari, apparently they're here for you if they finally found you.
Oh, they always are, yeah. They can't find me.
Kari says we also have wannabe Finn as a boss who doesn't let us see the sun.
So
it makes it.
I don't know if you've seen Chirper, but Finn's chirpers lately have just been roasting Blues Fan, and I don't know why or if they're friends or not, but it just makes me really laugh, because Blues Fan's just talking about being a poli-sci major. He's like, just thinking of you as a poli-sci major makes me laugh so hard. He's like, well, but why? He's like, I don't know. It's just really funny.
Oh God. Fanto season 79 is a decent sized class that's leaving also. That's exactly to Hiff's point. I mean, that's the nature of the J. We've said it a million times already on today's broadcast. You know, it's cyclical. So big class comes in, big class goes out. There's a bunch of spots that need to be filled.
Also, you can't ignore Lime's streets ahead comment. You gotta be streets ahead.
Yeah, if you're not streets ahead, you're streets behind.
Just
so
asking
true.
this question lowered me to a level 4 Laser Lotus, honestly.
69 age outs. Nice.
Nice.
That was nice. That was a nice number. Rich says that's because Blues is still a child in our hearts.
Isn't
I
he
still
still
remember-
one literally too? Isn't he still-
No, I usually this Blues is a grown ass adult now, but I remember when I first interacted with Blues back in like the St. Louis days, way back when. He was like 14 years old and he said some of the silliest things, and I'm like,
That's
oh
a
my
show.
gosh,
Kids
we
say
have
the
a
darndest things.
child. There's a child in the locker room saying silly things.
I find that having really young users and really old users is often the similar experience, because they'll both just say whatever the hell is on their mind, and it'll be the most outlandish thing 90% of the time.
Yeah, I have to echo those sentiments. I've seen that as well. But it's also fun because sometimes they mix well, but sometimes it's like oil and vinegar, and
Yeah.
it's just like
They're like,
you
I don't
gotta
want to be babysitting. My kids are 40 already. Like, leave me alone.
Yeah, right? Like I gotta make a trade here to like stabilize my locker room because I didn't realize that this person was 76.
I'm
SH
calling Yeti out with that. Yeah, absolutely.
SHL the Great Melting Pot. That's right. That's right. But yeah,
Where else
like I
could you have
said,
a
guys.
podcast with a Bruins and a Habs fan.
Yeah. What can we say? We bring everybody together. Kumbaya, the campfire here. So we're gonna go ahead and kind of wrap things up here. We're coming up to time. Like we said, next week we are gonna be diving in on that State of the Union. We're gonna be talking about every little aspect of it. Talking expansion with Jess. We're gonna be talking FHM 10 with Corey. We may even be able to share a little bit of FHM 10, and we'll share that in the podcast as well, which will be pretty.
And
exciting.
if you really want, you can bully Frenchie to come on so we can congratulate him for his promotion that's confirmed. But you have to bully him.
That would be
relentlessly.
wonderful. Yeah. Mainly because he's French. But all right, guys. Well, I had a blast today. It was awesome. Shout out again to Ramen for joining us and talking about the Citadels and their back-to-back 4-star cups. Thank you again to Bad Wolf as well for joining us and talking about the Pride and their back-to-back challenge cups. And then most importantly, thank you to all of you that tuned in to watch the podcast today and interact with us. It was a ton of fun having everybody here. On behalf of myself and HIF and the SHL Tonight show, we will go ahead and see you guys next week.